This is Santon Hill. This was where Napoleon hinged his left wing. This was the northernmost point of his entire defense plan, and the chapel itself is new. New, it was rebuilt, because there was a chapel apparently on this side, but it was dismantled by the French so that the position could be used during the battle. And standing from this point here, we can see that Piotr Bagration, his troops would have advanced on it, his infantry advanced on it from the north, which is over there. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning now. But it advanced from there, but you can see you've got this slope getting up there, so it's a relatively easy position to defend. Not only that, Napoleon placed here 30 cannons. Now that was quite a lot. He only had 157, so he had a very strong point around this, and it's very difficult for infantry to attack. You see how steep the slope is, and on the other side it's even steeper. Let's have a look. So I'm approaching from the south, which is a much gentler incline than the approach from the north. I came here last night and there was a couple here. They were probably married, but not to each other. So I'm wandering around with a camera, and I felt as though I was getting in their way. So, never mind, I came back now. So you see, an attack from this angle, from the north, would be very difficult. Nonetheless, Russian infantry did attack here and took the casualties. What we can see from up here is a quite incredible view over almost all of the entire battlefield. The battlefield, which is 120 square kilometers. So from the Bagration, who was around here, to the far south at Telnitz, in that direction, you can see just about everything from up here. We take from down there, we have Stare Vinogrady, where the vineyards were, where the cavalry attacks took place. There we have the Pratzen Heights, the heights which Napoleon surveyed and decided he was going to give it up so you would seem in disarray, allowed the Russians and Austrians to occupy them, and then took them during the battle, destroying the centre of the Allied line. And leading down from the Pratzen Heights, we come to the villages such as Sokolnitz, Telnitz, and that was where the right of Napoleon's army stood. So what happened in November of 1805, this is the road that goes to Olomouc. Now you've got the, you might have got to work this out, I'll close in a bit to, so there you've got the dual carriageway, and there's another road here, that one, that is the old road, so I shall be travelling along that, and that's the road Napoleon travelled along. And when he got here, he said apparently, gentlemen, this is going to be a battlefield, study it well, you'll need to know it for the day of the battle, or words to that effect. So from up here, I think I can really appreciate the view that the French had. Now, Napoleon based himself at a place called Juran, where he had an equally good view of the battlefield, and at a point, actually, it's higher than where we are now, although you wouldn't actually think so. I think this seems to be higher, but Juran is here. That's the highest point of the battlefield. That's there. Higher than the Pratzen Heights. And from there, Napoleon had a good view of everything that was going on. Now today it's May, then it was December, and there was the fog. And this is something which for me is hard to grasp. How did Napoleon know that there was going to be fog? And without the fog, would his plan have worked? My feeling is that maybe it wouldn't have worked, because the reason the Pratzen Heights were not exactly abandoned by the Allies, but it was the Tsar who ordered the Russian and Austrian troops to attack down the Pratzen Heights towards Napoleon's right wing. And Kutuzov, the Russian commander, theoretical commander as it turned out, because he didn't have overall command, he was hesitant. He kept the troops back up there until the Tsar absolutely ordered him. Napoleon was very patient, and the French troops under Saint-Hilaire were sort of urging to go, but he said no, no, no. Then when he saw more troops leaving the Pratzen Heights, and only then did he organise attack on it. But there were counter-attacks from the area to the what is to our left of the Pratzen Heights, when the Russians saw what was actually happening, so they're attacking with their cavalry, and the French cavalry countercharged. I often say that the best time is the early morning, and you can see why. These great views up here right now. See a little idea of the distances. Now Molyamiru, that's at the top of the Pratzen Heights. Pratzen, obviously is Pratzen, and Slapanitz was part of the battle. Juran, I don't quite know why they say you have to go left, because that's clearly to the right, but in Vinogradki, maybe that's where the easiest paths are. But all places which took part in the battle, except maybe the motor rest, Rolenka, although you see that mentioned. Bagration, the Russian general. Incidentally, it was the 1944 Soviet counter-attack in Belarus, which destroyed Army Group Center. Operation Bagration was named after him. And there we have the French commander here. As a battle, I don't think that Austerlitz was one which was particularly change world history, to use a quote that you hear on sort of television. The Napoleon found himself in a state of constant warfare against his own wishes, but as time went on, I think he believed in his own invincibility. And so by the time, this was the war of the Third Coalition. We had 7 coalitions in total. And plus Napoleon's attack on Russia. So if you like, there's 8 wars. Maybe that's a slight exaggeration, I'm going to say it easier. It's like one war broken by a 14-month period of peace in 1802, 1803. Napoleon's problem was this. What he'd done, or what the French Revolution had done, it got rid of the old order, had chopped the king's head off, and put in a new order of different rules. Now, I do appreciate that Napoleon tried to put in his own hegemony, and certainly by the time of Austerlitz, it was a case of him sort of trying to change the map of Europe. But his problem was this, is that the other country didn't want peace with him. In fact, the only peace offer of any consequence he was offered was the Frankfurt proposals by the Sixth Coalition in a war which I think Napoleon thought he was going to win, which would have allowed him to stay in power and would have kept the French borders on the Rhine River. I mean, today part of it's on the Rhine, just a little bit, but then it would have been the entire Rhine, Belgium, bits of Holland, bits of what is today Germany, and he could have stayed in power. But he hummed and hawed, and he didn't accept them. That was in 1813, and by that time it was clearly he'd lost the game. It was all over. And had he accepted them, Metternich told him it was the best chance he would get, and as the Allies advanced more, then the terms would get harsher. And by that time, Napoleon was outnumbered something like 5 or 6 to 1. And although he kept winning victories, none of them were really like, yeah, this was his crowning victory. Because even the big other ones, like Wagram, which was 4 years later, it was touch and go. It was very similar amount of casualties between French and Austrians, for example. Napoleon's problem was the same as the problem as Israel faces today. Israel has to win every single war. It cannot lose one. Whereas, and Napoleon was in the same situation. Faced with an enemy with huge amounts of resources, with the UK constantly in the background, or constantly financing the other wars and against him. The other wars which with Russia, which is certainly not a country that's going to want equality, liberty and brotherhood, autocratic dictatorship, and Austria, which was sort of allied to Napoleon when forced to be, as Russia was for a time. there was constantly this pressure, and always also in the background was Prussia. All these countries against him. So, what chance, long term, did he have? This chapel was built after the battle to replace one which had earlier been here. Now the name Santon in French, it's Santon, which could be a shortened form of Saint Antoine. If you want to see, I've got a light somewhere. Panna Maria Twarożeńska oroduj za nas. Now, this area here is Tarozno or something like that, Tarozna, and so that says, Holy Mary of Tarozno, pray for us, Panno, Lady Mary. Now, I can't speak Czech, but I know enough of it to get by.